Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be disassembling and reassembling this RockShox INDY XC fork. I believe this one is probably from 97, 98. I'll have to confirm that, but there's no more cantilever bridge on here. These were made for V-brakes. Normally inside there's just elastomers, possibly even just one. We're going to find out. I'll need to look up for a PDF or a diagram online. I'm sure there is one for this particular fork. It's fairly easy to service, so let's get cracking. We're going to remove the top caps, or the nuts, let's say. It looks like it's number 22. I'm just going to use an adjustable wrench for this though. Oh no. So not surprisingly, they are a little bit rotten. I can see someone's used some kind of Shimano grease, really not the grease you want to put into this, so I wouldn't be surprised they attacked the elastomer and possibly was the reason for its destruction. Since this is a budget build, I won't be getting new elastomers. What I'm probably going to be doing is I've actually got quite a few bits of elastomer left from other forks that I dismantled that's still fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to just cut off the part that's rotten and add on to that to equal the height between the both sides. The polyurethane or the elastomers, they should be roughly 11 centimeters on this particular model. It's recommended on the manual that they shouldn't be under 109 millimeters. The next part is a little bit annoying. It's actually been 2 weeks since I last filmed. I came up with a conundrum. You need a fairly specialist tool to remove the lower tubes here, and what you need specifically is a socket with a 6mm Allen key drive. The reason for that is at one point at the bottom here, you're going to have a hole where the Allen key is going to go through, and you're going to need a very long one. It's recommended on the manual 4 inches, which translates into 10 centimeters, and that 10 centimeters is going to eventually reach the bolt at the bottom. So I didn't feel like buying an expensive specialist tool just for this, so I made my own. To resolve the issue, I bought a 6mm Allen key wrench. I then had to cut off one end, and then after using a cheap socket, I then after was able to insert it. So obviously the socket is 6mm, and then we have a long Allen keyed drive socket wrench. Make sure I've put on a roughly about 11 centimeters in length to make sure, because I actually made one before and it turned out to be too short. So you really do need one that's 10 centimeters long, but this is a very good cheap alternative way of doing it. And then obviously you're going to need some kind of extension to reach all the way down, and so what you end up is with something like this. I do have another extension for my socket set, but while I was wasting my time in the DIY shop, I decided to get some adapters to go from 1/4 to 3/8 or whatever, and 3/8 to 1/4. I thought that would be useful at some point in the future. Anyway, I know this works because I've already removed one, so now let's do the other one. Just to give you a better visual, you'll see there at the bottom of the tube there's looks like it's plastic, I'm not too sure, but then after you'll see just after there's the bolt, so the Allen key driver is going to go through that hole and then reach down into that bottom bolt. Since there's bolts on both sides, I've already undone one. I think that's just gone in, and now I need to engage it into the bolt. Okay, I've got it. This might be quite hard to remove. That's the reason why I'm using an adapter for with a larger socket wrench. I think we just heard it cracking. Yeah, and that's good. We should now be able to just remove this. That's good signs. You can now remove the rest by using your extension drive. I'm going to do that in front of you. And you should have something like this, which has the little part there where we had the drive going through, and you can actually remove the bolt, in fact, there. And well, anyway, we're going to give this all a clean now. Don't forget the boots. You can remove these seals and potentially replace them. I can't quite remember the sizing. I think it was 28 millimeters in diameter. I am not going to be doing that for this project though. Lastly, before I start cleaning, I thought this was interesting. If you flash the light in here, you can clearly see that there's some kind of other hex shape at the bottom there. I tried putting my 6mm Allen key into it. It doesn't seem to fit. It might be a number 5. I don't know what that's for. It's not actually on the their diagram on their manual. I forgot to actually show this. All these parts are of course removable. Just need to pull them apart. In fact, I would avoid removing these altogether, because when you do, these springs that go around here, once they're unbent, you can't really put them back on. In fact, I just remember doing just that on a RockShox INDY XC fork, unless you're sure that you find a replacement for these. I'd be interested to know where from. I cleaned everything last night. I think what's important is cleaning the interior of the fork legs, the lower tube, and removing the old gunk mostly. I also polished the crown, make it a little bit nicer to look at. I did put some paint renovator on here. It's made it a little bit more white, but it's not perfect. Obviously the decals are all scratched up, but I think it'll be functioning better. I've also cut the old part of the elastomer that had rotted, and found another little part from an old RockShox fork, and so now that will be the same length as the other one. I think that should work for what we're doing. Otherwise you can get replacement elastomers, like I mentioned I think before, from either a polyurethane supplier that makes rods, or otherwise I think it was the US side that sells them as well. What we're going to need next is some suspension oil, a Teflon based grease. I'm just using one that's that I could get locally. I just want to finish it, but otherwise most people recommend Sliconium and RockShox Judy butter. So beginning with all the parts, we've got this tube, and you have this bumper, so we're going to fit that back on. You can probably start putting some grease on these parts straight away. This bolt is going to go through, and then we have the cap where our Allen key drive goes. So you can put a thin layer of Teflon grease on all these parts, and once you've done that, these are going to go back into the fork legs. And you can repeat the same procedure on the other sides. I've just put some paper to avoid the parts getting contaminated, because there's things outside and it's going to get stuck on there. Now, on these screws you want to put a tiny bit of thread locker. And next we're going to put some grease on these legs, and we're going to slide it into the bottom half. Put some on the interior of the seals. Normally what they recommend is you get a plunger and you push it all the way down, either way. We now need to put the boots back on. Make sure you put them the right way. Usually there's some holes here at the bottom. So according to the manual, we now need to put some oil into the lower tubes. My specific model needs 3 teaspoons, it says, and other models it needs 2. I'm not going to use a teaspoon that I eat from. I'm going to just pour a little bit in. I'll probably be leaking everywhere later. Now that we've done that, we need to put the top tubes back in the crown. So pretty much insert it. All the way to the bottom, and we now need to go and get our socket 10cm Allen key drive. For the elastomers, we're going to have this plastic part, and that goes inside here. The next part will go into that with the spring. I couldn't remove the spring off this to clean it, it seems stuck. And the kind of adjuster knob, which you can push through now. Yeah, that looks good. We now need to cover this up with a bit of, again, some grease. I've just added on some glue to hold this in place. I'm going to be fixing with something with adhesive very soon, much stronger, and I will add it onto this. You can now pop this through and aim for the bolt at the bottom to screw it down. I think I've got it. Tighten it up. Make sure not to cross thread. There you go. There's a certain torque key. I haven't got a torque wrench though, so I won't be able to do that. think that's done. And the same procedure for the other sides. So now just screw that in and you'll do the same for the other side. I completely forgot to mention, make sure that these are both on minus. I think there's like nearly a difference of a centimetre when these are put down on plus and minus. Now I'll get a number 22 wrench or an adjustable wrench to finishing tighten these down. Make sure not to cross thread the plastic, otherwise you'll destroy them. Be very careful with this at the end. I just started to cross thread mine and I managed to save it by untightening, but yeah, be very careful. These should nearly be able to tighten up by hand if they've been cleaned properly. You can have the unfun task of sticking these boots back on. And finally got them on after playing around for 10 minutes. Let's give this a go. Yeah, looks like it's working. So thank you for listening, and until next time, peace out. And that's one less to do.